Good morning, afternoon, evening, night, whenever you may be watching this. Um, so it is currently, today is Sunday, October 5th, but I had filmed this video earlier on Friday morning and accidentally deleted it and then cleared my trash to make more room for making up Wednesday's video that didn't record the sound. So shout out, Sandwich. So here we are. Thursday's video, October 2nd, Thursday. Like I said, Thursday, October 2nd, 2025. It was a rehearsal day, so we were working on A Midsummer's Night's Dream. No, that's that's not written correctly. It should be A Midsummer Night's Dream. That's all right. Um, and yeah, so let me walk you through it. We only had like a few hours of actual work, so this should go by pretty quickly. I only have one, two, 3.5 pages of notes. So we should breeze through this. I think my last video I recorded was like 20 minutes. And then maybe I'll go straight into recording for Fridays because I want to get back on track and just be recording every morning. That's the goal. So before rehearsal though, we did have a company meeting. And so we met in John Brown, John Wood. Where's my phone? I think it's John Wood. But I feel like I've been saying John Wood for too long. And now I'm I think it's John Wood and I've been saying John Brown. That's my guess. Let's see what this says. Also, it's like noon 47 right now, so I got my window open, the blind open. I just got that natural light. It's nice, bright. Yeah, John Wood. That's right. Okay, and it was just a 20-minute meeting where we were with Nicoletta and George. And first, they kind of discussed the absence policy. So if you're absent, you need to email absence. There's an email that has it. And then you need to like CC, which I don't know what that stands for. Connect, copy, connect. I don't know. But the course leader, so Ollie. So when I figure all of this out for the going home this week, for the birth of my baby, I will email absence. And then we just discussed about our successes together. And I said how Wednesday night, um, Emma scheduled her induction for October 12th, Sunday, October 12th, which is from today, an exact week from today. Incredible, exciting. Wow. There's like a hair on my foot. And so that was fun, but then we needed to focus more on like successes in the program. So we talked about that, and Class B was showing up. We like were commenting and sharing like successes a little more than the other two classes. And I'm 100% biased, but I love our class and I think we're really great. But I also want to get to know the other people like way more. So B for best. Um, yeah, we just went through that. And like I said, so Wednesday night, Emma had her um, OB appointment and was able to schedule her induction. And so it's like officially scheduled for Sunday night. And so I started looking into flights and things, and I knew I wanted to talk to Ollie and kind of get it approved before I bought the flight. And when I started looking at the flights, also this was the morning, Wednesday morning before this meeting, I noticed that there were like there was only two available flights, and it didn't match super well with my original plans, just because I thought we would be induced on Saturday. I would leave Friday, get there Friday night, have Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday, I would leave Monday morning. That was the original plan. So I would only have like 2 days, which would have been difficult. And, I think God had a different plan and just kind of worked it all out. And so instead, it was either leaving Friday, still Friday, Friday morning at like 8 a.m. or 11 a.m. So I would be missing classes anyway. And then um, getting back Tuesday night or Wednesday night. But either way, I'm missing Tuesday, which is a rehearsal day, which was iffy. And I was like, oh no, wait, I got to talk to Emma about like how that works. But then she was asleep, of course. And then I was like, I'll just talk to Ollie. And that was the whole thing. I'll get there. But yeah. So then we went to rehearsal and we did our romantic scenes, and we were working on our romantic scenes. And since we didn't have our warm up because we were in the company meeting, we did a little warm up and a little stretching and grounding, and we moved. We were moving around, stretching, getting in the ground, and getting comfortable and ready for the day. And then we moved into working with text, picking a large section of text. I only have one that's like more than 4 lines. That one's 5. But it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines. O Helen, goddess, nymph, perfect, divine, to what, my love, shall I compare thine eyne? Crystal is muddy. Oh, how ripe in show thy lips those kissing cherries tempting grow. That pure, congealed white, high Taurus snow, fanned with the eastern wind, turns to a crow. When thou hold'st up thy hand, oh, let me kiss this princess of pure white, the seal of bliss. Got it. Which is better than I had did it in the past video. Haha, memorization. So I picked that one, and we started lying on the ground and just kind of whispering that to ourselves. Oh, Helen, goddess, nymph, perfect, divine, to what, my love, shall I compare thine eyne? Crystal is muddy, oh, how ripe and show thy lips, those kissing cherries tempting grow. And then so on and so forth. And then we were saying it with intention and purpose, not just like, and then we slowly got up, and then we continued repeating the speech over and over again. And then eventually we walked around and then moved with intention, like with each line. Oh, Helen, goddess, nymph, perfect, divine. To what, my love, shall I compare thine eyne? Crystal is muddy, oh, how ripe and show thy lips those kissing cherries tempting grow. Right? That was kind of the idea. And then we began walking around and connecting with the person to whom the speech was directed. So mine was to the actress um, playing her Helena. Oh, Helen, hence that. And so I connect us. Oh, Helen, goddess, nymph, perfect divine, to what, my love, shall I compare thine eyne? And then I picked different parts. And then I also did a little bit, I think, with is that true? No, I'm thinking of Friday. Yeah. So that was the best gist of it. And then I noticed, like, as we were doing this, the actress playing Helena, good friend, she was getting emotional, kind of doing her speech to the girl playing Hermia. And I was like, oh, I hope she's okay. And I was able to talk to her about it later, and she said, yeah, I was just feeling it. I was feeling the kind of reality of like all of this pressure and this difficulty kind of pushing down on me. And then here's my best friend who should understand. And then I feel betrayed by her, like she's in on this stupid joke. And so she just got emotional. I was like, solid. That's great. Way to feel the text. Um, yeah, I recognize that repetition really helps with the embodiment and mastery of it. So just doing it, doing it, doing it. And doing it in different scenarios so that like we can work on it, because sometimes you have it memorized in like a sitting position or just like a pacing position, but it's in that really rhythmic like way you learned it, and once you change that it gets difficult again. And so, um, I don't want to do that. And so I want to be able to do it in many different ways. Sorry, lost my train of thought there. Um, and that this process also helps with softening and relaxation, eliminating that tension in the body and helping to understand the words. It was lovely. I enjoyed it. And then Gemma mentioned how the directive for actors and directors on this project is to ensure that the actor knows what we are saying, right? That's this project. We're not necessarily trying to become brilliant Shakespearean actors at the end of this or have even a finished product, but we're trying to understand what we're saying and convey that. That's kind of the point. Then she mentioned how Ollie wanted to do, I think we circled up at this point in chairs and was saying how Ollie wanted to do the performances in the Call It House, the top studio. And Jen was like, mm-mm, no way. That's too big. It's too echoey. And the acoustics are all funky. And she's like, no, we'll do it here in the PJ Ross studio, which is smaller and brighter and a little more studio like, but she felt like it was more intimate, it was more what we wanted. Lost my spot. And then we set up the blocks for the performers. So that little kind of picture of the blocks, I don't even think I have it in this one. I definitely do not. But just like the blocks on the picture I showed in that one video that one time. How there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Like 18 blocks or something. It's close to 20. I don't know exactly. It seemed like we were missing a few because I pulled out my other notebook. I was like, I took notes. And then it wasn't perfect. I was like, that doesn't work. But alas, that's okay. So then we started running through all the scenes in the space and just like doing it with our bodies and seeing how that went and how it felt. And so we set it up in a semicircle now. So like if my face is this the whole area. My chin is going to be the audience. My nose, my nose is the blocks, and then my eyebrows in this crease is where we will be sitting. And then this is how the audience is going to be set up. They're going to be in like a little over a semicircle. Like it's about a half circle, maybe even a little more so. But it's kind of like a rounded thrust is going to be like our stage. But then upstage on the back end, that's where the other actors in our class will be set up. And then we kind of identified where the space was and where the playing space was. And basically, it's everywhere except for like there's a little closet in PJ Ross with chairs and stuff. It's like don't go in there. But besides anywhere, you can explore that space. And then before we began, she said, "Don't just start randomly shouting at each other. Remember the intent. What are you saying? What are you trying to convey? What do you want from your scene partner?" So we focused on that. And then the order of the performances that we began was Much Ado About Nothing, part one, because they have two parts of their scene. The Winter's Tale, Midsummer, A Midsummer Night's Dream, Antony and Cleopatra, Twelfth Night, Romeo and Juliet, and then Much Ado About Nothing, part two. So it's kind of a little Much Ado sandwich. And then when we when we went through it, we did it off book, but we had to call line a lot. It's the difference between like running flashcards or like holding the script and being like, "Oh, why rebuke you, him that loves you so? Lay breath so bitter on your bitter flow," to actually being in the space and doing it. So it was like 16 minutes, but Gemma was like, "We can get that to 14." I think we could do less, but still, it'll be good. Um, and then after running through the whole thing, Gemma's like, "I've changed the order. So this is the official performance order, and she created a world with it. I'll get to that in a second. But the new order is Much Ado About Nothing, Part One, then Antony and Cleopatra, then Twelfth Night, then The Winter's Tale, then Much Ado About Nothing, Part Two, then Midsummer, A Midsummer's Night's Dream. A Midsummer Night's Dream. Then Romeo and Juliet to finish them off. Is that all of them? Seven? There were seven? Yeah, 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 yeah. So, um, the world that we're setting this in is like a dance party. And so the area is a dance floor because it's all about different relationships at different stages. And so we're all playing with this idea about dancing. And so in Much Ado, we're going to establish, like before Much Ado begins, we're going to establish all of the actors on stage dancing and doing our thing, chill. And then Antony and Cleopatra, we're going to leave some, and then we'll have like Cleopatra's people involved. So with a bunch of the cast. And this is what we started working on after we figured this out. So we got everyone on stage in for before Much Ado, and then they started writing Much Ado. And my group, we were a little more downstage and off to stage right. And we just kind of we're just like dancing. We're like, it's a dance party. And Jim was like, you guys are taking up way too much attention. You guys got to stop. And one of the guys was standing on a block. He was like, yeah. And so he was higher and it was a whole thing. So we moved upstage behind the block. And then even we're still dancing. We're like, yeah, it's a dance party. But it was still too much. So we decided it was conversational instead. And I think we sat on some blocks. I don't remember where we ended up. And then with Antony and Cleopatra, we start off with the full cast and we all like kind of picked a tableau, a position to stand and do. And then Jim started taking people off. It's like, you leave, you leave, you leave, you leave, you leave. And I was one of the ones left. Nice. And then she asked who everybody was. And somebody is actually going to read some lines and be a set character. And so he's like the first in command of assistants. And then another girl is going to be the second command, and I was like, I'm the royal advisor because I was right next to Cleopatra. I was like, I just whisper things into her ears. And she's like, oh, so you're like second and third in line. I was like, sure, I'm third in line. And so that changed the dynamic. And then as we transitioned into 12th night, we were gonna have the full cast, but we just started with the people we had, and then we added someone to come in for Malvolio to introduce um, Cesario or Viola as Cesario entering. And so then we kind of balanced out the space and I ended up more stage right away from them. And then I was just kind of in the way. So she's like, when Viola enters, you leave. I was like, all right, I'm out of here. Then Winter's Tale is just the three of them. Much Ado Part 2, I think, is just the two of them. Midsummer is just the four of us. And then Romeo and Juliet, I don't know if we got to that one. Think we did, but someone will play the nurse. We might have been running out of time or something. Had to go for lunch. No, lunch break wasn't yet. I don't know. I don't remember. Maybe it's just them two. But she said the runtime is going to be like 55 minutes to an hour, and then there might be some end thing where we all come back and dance. But so yeah, our world is going to take place on this dance floor with these stories of love crossing in and out, party scenes, and then with a long speech. Then we started working on some things, and she said, like with a long speech, you need to find the balance between your scene partner and the audience. The audience is part of it, and so she reminded us of the triangle game, which I think I forgot to mention. The triangle game was we did on Tuesday in Call It House. And the idea was everyone was spread out around the space, and you pick two people, and you're like, I'm going to form an equilateral triangle with these two people. And it wasn't, you didn't tell them or communicate, and each of those people had their own two people. It could have been you or could not have been, right? And so everyone has their own people, and you're constantly shifting and moving to maintain this equilateral triangles, right? And it just really helps in a thrust stage or a round stage to create these triangles because it improves people's views and it improves the audience experience. And so she reminded us of that. And then three people were able to practice on it. So it was the two actors playing Romeo and Juliet, and then the actor playing Antony. And they got on the space and started out with Juliet, I believe. Yeah, and they wanted to create these new images with which included the audience, and while speaking a speech um, to Romeo, but also including Johannes, who was Antony. Dang it. Um, including the actors. Anyway, so performing something that Gemma mentioned because she's worked a lot with the Globe. She said performing on the Globe stage requires you to include the entire space and the audience. And she's so cool. She's like, when you guys work on the Globe, because she's just preparing us for that, I guess. But because the Globe stage is kind of like this, here's the stage, and then the audience is totally encircling them. It's important. You're forced to include. And the stage actually comes out, so there's people behind you as well as in front of you. Um, and yeah, then then Juliet, the person playing Juliet, was able to kind of try to include everyone. And then the person playing Antony did their political speech, which is all about um like how things are changing politically, and ends with like, but the most important news is that my wife's dead, so we can be together now, Cleopatra. Um, and Gemma had the actor playing Antony sit in the audience, and that like really included us as the audience into it. And then it felt like we, the audience, were some of his soldiers and part of that scene. And then they moved on to the actor playing Romeo. And when he was playing it, he kind of treated the audience like the guards, which was cool because that added new tension and new ideas that his proximity to the audience could make Juliet nervous and could add that other layer of complexity and relationship. Um, Gemma mentioned how we need to clearly identify what the dance floor looks like for our scenes. We need that in our head so that it's realistic and environmentally driven. Um, and then we tried having the whole class in Antony and Cleopatra's scene. And I think that's what I was talking about before. We just moved. Maybe that's when we started doing the order. Anyway, then we had a lunch break. And so after our lunch break, we were doing like one-on-ones. So Gemma was working individually with people, and then Jess was also working individually with people. Jess is the vocal tutor, the voice coach, voice tutor. I don't know her official position, but she teaches us voice on Mondays. Practical voice, speech and clarity. And so after lunch at 2:15, we were with Gemma. Um, and I noticed there's always this focus on negotiating, which I really like. It's like make sure you negotiate for the space, you negotiate for choices, you negotiate between actors and not just in scenes, but there's this idea of negotiation, how that's so important for us. And I like that idea. Then we blocked like the first third of our show with Gemma, and we worked on um like we just kind of walked through it, and then she was like, well, we need to do this or add this or do that, whatever, right, to kind of clear up what we were naturally doing. So it was good, it went well. Our scene's so long, it's clear, it's definitely the longest. And then we worked on our lines by ourselves. um yeah, the actor playing Hermia got some really hard news about a friend during lunch and took her out. And um so Gemma was so observant, was just able to notice like what was going on. It's like, what's Are you okay? What's wrong? You seem like distracted. And she just kind of opened up about what had happened. And so then she like took a moment by herself, and we kind of skipped that beginning part and then focused on Demetrius, Helen, and Lysander, and then she was ready to be present and back into it a second later. But it's nice to see these um this empathy and this consideration for people and their feelings and their circumstances, and it was nice. And so we took a second because we had a long break, and um and so we went to the common room to run lines just because we felt like we were calling line a lot and we weren't as locked in as we wanted to be. So we went up there, but the girl playing Hermia took a minute to kind of gather some more thoughts and find out some more things, I think. And so I played pool for a little second. They have this teeny little, well, it's just like a miniature pool table. and and then we all showed up and we ran those lines. And then we were just individual by ourselves. And then we worked with Jess to stress and something she said, which I thought is fascinating, is to stress the last line. Like a lot of the time, and this isn't a perfect rule, of course, but a lot of the time you are pushing through to the last emphasis. That's a really important thing. It's usually you're building to that last word. Sorry, my nose is itchy. So, for example, so should the murdered look, and so should I. And then when you emphasize the last syllable, you also want to emphasize the next emphasized word in the following sentence. And that kind of links them together. Like, so should the murdered look, and so should I. Pierce through the heart with your stern cruelty. Yet you, the murderer, look as bright, as clear as yonder Venus in her glimmering sphere. Right? It helps to give a better flow and connection to it. Also, I asked her about um, if you should ever emphasize a word that's not on the emphasized beat. Like, I always want to emphasize pronouns because of the comparison. I feel like actually this little speech has a lot of them, but there's other ones where it's not, where the pronouns or other words are not on the emphasized word, the bottom, 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 right? I'd rather give his carcass to my hounds. No, that one works. You spend your passion on misprized mood. I like here, I am not guilty of Lysander's blood. But actually, maybe that doesn't work. I am not guilty of Lysander's blood. That's on the off beat. But it doesn't make sense. Anyway, I'm probably just haven't figured it out yet. But yeah, almost always there's no need to emphasize an unstressed word. So that was cool. And then um I don't feel like I'm good at this. And like not in a bad way. And not like acting in total, but this analysis and this very technical side of things, I've always kind of emphasized learning, like putting in the work, learning my lines, learning things, and then relying on instinct when it comes to the scene itself. And this is not that way. This is about understanding verse, and there's a certain way to read verse, and there's a certain time to breathe, and there's certain words to emphasize and to not emphasize. And it's not my strength or my inclination, but I wasn't feeling it in like a super discouraged way. It was more of in a motivated way. Um, so yeah. Oh, also during lunch, I was going to meet with Ollie to um to talk about flight plans and stuff, but I didn't email him or anything. I just went up to his office, but he wasn't there. But I bumped into a buddy, um, more Emma's friend than mine, but somebody that we knew through Nauvoo, and it was just like strange and excited to see him. I was like, oh, hey. It took me a while to like click it, but it was cool. But then I did email Ollie because George was up there and he told me to. And I had a meeting set up for right after at 4:30 because we were ending early. And so, yeah, I want to learn this and I want to be successful. Um, yeah, Jess says that you breathe at, at the end of every line and you don't breathe when it's not there, which is such an interesting rule, you know? But I'm gonna learn it. I'm gonna follow it through and then it's gonna work and it's gonna be awesome. But then something she said to help is also find something fascinating about that last word, that last syllable to really get there. Like, um, that would sound a good example. Foe, for example. Lay breath so bitter on your bitter foe. What is important about foe is that I am not her foe, I am her lover. And this is Demetrius talking to Hermia, saying, I love you, or why rebuke you him that loves you so? Lay breath so bitter on your bitter foe. Like, be mean to your foes, not to me, who's your lover. And that will help you drive to it. And then don't break up the line even if you have these developments or discoveries. Discover it on the line. Have these ideas as you're saying them. Don't be like, oh, I made a discovery, and then say it. Like, as yonder Venus in her glimmering sphere, right? To have those pauses breaks up the line, and then it also makes it more difficult to understand. Because she had mentioned Andrew Scott's Hamlet as well. And Lauren seemed to dismiss him as an actor, but Jess had a different opinion, which was very nice. She said how he's a beautiful actor and he's really physical and emotional, but he did a bad verse interpretation because he took all these pauses and all this unnecessary stuff. And so I really appreciated that perspective a little more because I like Andrew Scott and I have even liked his Hamlet. But now as I'm learning more about verse, I do think I understand. And she said, since the to be speech is so recognizable and so famous, it didn't hurt the interpretation as much, like the understanding from the audience. But if it were a speech that were different, then that could be very easily misunderstood with all these to be or not to be. That is the question, right? And so you just take so many of these pauses and it hurts understanding. Okay. And then she said when you lose the lines, something new is happening. And I think that's when you're trying some physicality or something and you forget your lines. She thinks that's a good thing because you're discovering something new or something new is happening. So don't be afraid to lose your lines. And then something for me specifically is to find the genuine questions and connections, right? My first line is a question. Why rebuke you him that loves you so? See, there's a pronoun I want to emphasize. Why rebuke you him that loves you, you so, right? I don't want to focus it on her, but it's not. It's about Demetrius. Why rebuke you him that loves you so? That loves you so. Like breath so bitter on your bitter foe. But like, I don't know. I feel like I'm still da 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 da. I've said that one so much, and it's all so rhythmic. But why rebuke you him that loves you so? Lay breath so bitter on your bitter foe. On your bitter foe. I don't know. I'll play with it. See, I don't think I'm great at it yet. Yeah, and we didn't have a ton of time. I think we had 45 minutes with Jess. And then afterwards, I was able to talk to Ollie. I went up to his office, and he's so understanding, such a sweet guy. So I really appreciated being able to talk to him. His main concern, understandably, is that what happens if there's a complication and I can't make it in time for the performances, which are this coming Friday, the 17th, I think it is. Yeah, the 17th. Yes. Not this coming Friday. That's the one I'm missing, the one after. That's when we're going to perform our scenes, and that's the end of half term. And so it's super important that that's taken care of. And then he said, I understand that like this is so important that you're there for your child and you're there for Emma and everything. But um he needs to have backups in case something happens and I'm not there. Because I should be getting back Wednesday and then have Thursday as my final rehearsal and then Friday as the performance. But I'll be missing Tuesdays, which is the penultimate rehearsal. And so they're going to look at somebody to be able to fill in if worst comes to worst. Worst comes to worst, or worst comes to worse. I think it's if worst comes to worst. Comment if you know, my three tall word listeners. um, but yeah, and then what happens to me, right? How do I make up this scene, which is what everything we've been learning is going to be adjudicated, graded, focused on will be this romantic scene. And so that was his concern instead of the fact if I was missing 3 school days or 4 school days, because that's what I was kind of asking permission for. It's like, is it okay if I miss 4? But he was like, no, be out as long as you need, and that's not a problem. The problem is how it might affect other things. So then I was able to call Emma, but then the flight was so difficult and confusing because I thought I had paid for things that I wouldn't get hit with a bunch of fees. But I was still responsible for paying for the difference in fare. So I didn't have a fee to change the flight, but I was still responsible for paying the difference of price. And since it's so close to the date, it was like a 600 pound difference. So I already paid like 600 pounds, and so I'm paying another 600 pounds almost to switch the flight. And I tried calling and it's all in fees and taxes. So the actual price of the flight itself is just like 100 and something pound difference. But I was like, yeah, no problem. And so I was like, why am I getting hit with all these fees? And so I called them and they said something I could do. It took a while, but something I could do is cancel my flight, get reimbursed for it, and then use that credit to buy the flight so that there weren't these fees. But the thing is, those fees are just attached to the price of the flight. It just tells you how it's all broken down. That's what got explained to me the second time. And there's no way to waive the fees. There's no way to do anything like that. It's all separate. So there's that. But um, as I was like talking with Emma, insurance called and she's insured. And miracle of miracles, because she was trying to get insurance for September, but then it looked like it got misfiled and it fell apart. And so she was like, crap. Then all of my September appointments and everything had to be paid out of pocket, which was in the thousand, I don't know how much it was, but it was more than $1,000. And I was like, yay, whatever. And I had written that off and I resigned to that fact. But she got approved for September. And so she gets reimbursed for all of that. And so I feel much better about spending a little extra money on the flight when that is all reimbursed. And and the guy said that it was the latest he'd ever seen the approvement go through because it was like 2 days after. What is this? Is it the second? What day are we on? Yeah, the second. So 2 days after the end of the month, she got approved for September, and then she's just going to use that insurance as well for October and following. So miracles and blessings. Um, so feeling blessed and happy about that. Even though I thought I was really smart about my flight and that it wasn't going to cost me a bunch of money, but it will. But that's okay. Such is life. This is the most money I've ever spent on a flight, which is fun. But I get to see Emma this week, and I get to meet my son in a week. He'll be born a week from today or tomorrow, probably tomorrow. He'll probably be born on the 13th. But so much going on, so crazy, so excited. Anyway, that was Thursday. October 2nd, day 19, I believe. That is correct. Day 19. I'm already halfway through with my new booklet. Am I over halfway? Oh yes, I am, I think. Oh no, I'm not halfway yet. Oh yes, maybe. No, maybe. I don't know. It's hard to tell. It doesn't matter. Anyway, enjoy the video. I might I might record Fridays right now too, because I'm just on a roll. Bye.